Hello, and welcome to Building an Online Course Reflections on Theory and Practice. My name is Prosser-Dotson. This is EDU 609 Online Teaching Internship. Here's our agenda for Reflections on Theory and Practice. I promise not to take up too much of your time. However, I want to discuss how I use these theories and methodologies in my online course. Incorporating these theories and methodologies into my course allowed me to design a course that will keep my learners engaged and effectively create content that will aid me in achieving my expected learner outcomes. I treat every PowerPoint presentation as such, so forgive me if during my narration I come across as I'm training a class, but sorry, training is in my blood. So the five theories and methodologies that I chose to discuss is backward design, Bloom's taxonomy, authentic assessment, community of inquiry model, and community of practice. First up is our backwards design. So backward design was a model that's designed by Grant Wiggins, who wrote a book called Understanding by Design. In his book, he discussed that the traditional way of designing courses doesn't lead to great results. Or it doesn't, not necessarily great results, but it doesn't achieve the optimal results. So his model shows that if we identify desired results, we can determine the acceptable evidence that our learners achieve those results, and then we can plan the learning experiences and the instruction around those activities. So I have an example here. Let's think about baseball. Baseball athletes will be able to fill the desired result is athletes will be able to fill the ground ball properly to stop their opponents from advancing bases. In order to determine acceptable evidence is if they can fill ground balls on a regular basis, ultimately they can grow up to be one of the best ground ball players in a Major League Baseball, which is Derek Jeter. Now, of course, there's some skills and things that go into that, but if we plan those experiences and instructions to help those baseball players, such as hand-eye techniques and things of that nature, it's more than likely that they'll develop those skills where they can achieve the results where they won't make those mistakes. So the way I incorporated backward design model into my mini course was through effective design of my learning outcomes. I knew what knowledge and skills that I wanted my sales reps to have after completing my course. So I set aside a learning outcome for my sales reps to be able to demonstrate how to use the Leo method to de-escalate customer issues. I apologize, I have a little cold, but I'm gonna get through it. So the evidence to determine that the learning outcome is achieved will be through improved results for their locations' customer service scores. Using the backward design model, once I'm able to identify my desired results, then determine the evidence that the results were achieved, the final step is to plan the learning activities that will help me achieve the first two steps. I'm able to do that with my Module 1 activities. In my Module 1 lesson, I teach the sales reps what the Leo method is, how to use it, and I also provide a discussion board activity where they can express their thoughts, share their poor experiences as a customer, and explain how the Leo method could have solved the problem. Also within this discussion board, I required that the sales reps reply to at least two of their colleagues to give their feedback on what they thought, how their colleagues handled the situation using the Leo method. The next theory and methodology that I like to discuss is the Bloom's taxonomy. Benjamin Bloom's taxonomy theory was designed in 1956, and it focused on 6 levels of cognition. He used terms such as HOTS for higher order thinking skills and LOTS for lower order thinking skills. His theory discusses that simply just providing students with facts that they can remember without challenging their critical thinking skills doesn't create a scenario for an effective performance objective. When you provide students with performance objectives that challenge their ability to create, and not just their memory skills, you create a critical thinking environment. So let's take a look at how I incorporated that into my course. So I've always been an advocate of creating something that will help learners not only remember the content, but understand it in a way that they will be able to use what they learn and apply it. So let's look at the bottom portion of the Bloom taxonomy spectrum: remembering, understanding, and applying. Other lessons are taught to students with the intent that they remember what the teacher says. Think of a multiple choice exam, right? A student doesn't have to know how to apply themselves to do well in a multiple choice exam. They just have to have a great memory and be great at the process of elimination. An activity that I use An activity that I use in my course to ensure learners are not just remembering information, but also knowing and showing what they can apply to information that they learn is my creative video assignment. So my creative video practicing presenting key points assignment inspires the learner to demonstrate how they would explain the key points of information to a customer. After watching a video in which they witness a sales rep providing poor service, they're able to firsthand see what poor service looks like. With this assignment, I'm asking them to create a 1 to 2 minute video demonstrating how they will provide the customer with the key points that they learned in the previous assignment. The key points of information that they learn are things that each customer should know once they're set up their account. When sales reps provide those customers with this information, they're able to provide great service. But also, the goal is for these sales reps to be able to articulate this information to the customer to ensure the customer is aware of the key information for their account. So the next one is authentic assessment. It's with this methodology that we determine the effectiveness of our teaching and learning strategies. The way we figure that out is by having our learners take an assessment. So let's look at a difference between a formative assessment and a summative assessment. So a formative assessment, it is given during instruction. It measures the practice, so all the lessons leading up to the actual assessment. With a formative assessment, we provide feedback, immediate feedback to the learner. The summative assessment is given at the end of the instruction. It measures the mastery of the instruction, so the overall content of that course. Excuse me, I apologize. Feedback is not as important in the summative assessment because it's after the fact that everything is already done. So it's important that during the planning stage that excuse me. So authentic assessment is realistic. It requires judgment and innovation. It asks the learner to do the subject. I constantly talk about our training model for Metro by T-Mobile. Teach me, show me, let me do it, tell me how I did. That's all about the authentic assessment. In my mini course, my tracking an event with a minimal activity teaches the learners about memos, provides them samples of what a memo should look like, and then I ask them to create a memo using various scenarios. This assessment allows the learners to apply what they've learned using real life scenarios that they can expect to see as a sales rep working in the store. Authentic assessment is a great way for learners to practice what they're going to see in the real world. The next one is community of